Tonight, we're getting new surveillance video of that massive, deadly fire at a migrant facility in Mexico. What you're about to see is from inside, and it shows what might be the moment that started the fire. Telemundo in El Paso obtained this video from a source who works at that detention center, and a warning, what you're about to see could be disturbing. The Mexican government says the tensions boiled over in the migrant holding facility last night. Reports say some inside the facility had learned that they would be deported back to Central America and allegedly set fire to mattresses in protest, but that fire spread, as you can see. And this happened with 68 people inside. At least 39 of them died. And tonight, the Mexican government says it is helping the survivors, promising those victims will get free medical care and they will also be given green cards. They were all in legal limbo while waiting out the asylum process. And joining us now is NBC News national correspondent Gabe Gutierrez. Gabe, do we know anything about the people who potentially set fire to those mattresses? Well, could you tell us a little bit more about the people that were inside?
Yeah, well, Gotti, the Mexican president said today that the people who set those fire were migrants who were frustrated that they had heard that they might be deported, and so they're worried about that, and so they set those mattresses on fire in protest. Now, we have since learned that most of the migrants who were inside that facility were actually from Guatemala. There were some Venezuelans as well. But the question right now is, you know, what were the circumstances that led up to that? We also heard from relatives of those migrants today who said that there had been a roundup of migrants earlier in the day, and that the women and children were taken to this detention center and then released, but the men were kept inside the cells. And so there's a lot of frustration from relatives on the conditions in there potentially, and what may have led to this much frustration for them to set those mattresses on fire. Human rights groups are also calling for investigations as well, Gotti.
And Gabe, what's the infrastructure to house the tens of thousands of migrant seekers, asylum seekers in Mexico? I know that we're hearing that they are now being given permission to stay in Mexico, but were they holding there in Mexico to eventually get to the United States? Yeah. Or are they going to be allowed to ask for asylum here in the United States?
Yeah, Gotti, and this has been an ongoing problem. Many are calling it a humanitarian crisis at this point. I was in Juarez just a few months ago, and there were massive groups of hundreds of migrants who were trying to cross into the U.S. And even just several weeks ago, there was a very large group that tried to cross the international bridge into El Paso. This is what local officials have been dealing with, and what critics of the Biden administration say that the administration is encouraging. Now, today on Capitol Hill, the DHS secretary was actually pressed about his Border Patrol chief just recently saying that the Border Patrol had lost operational control of the border. DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is coming back and saying that they are doing everything they can to secure the border. But Gotti, in just a short time, the Biden administration has tightened asylum restrictions, and there's also many people are wondering what's going to happen in May when the lifting of Title 42 happens. It's a pandemic-era border restriction that critics say might lead to a larger number of migrants crossing into the border. So this is an ongoing problem there at the southern border, and especially in places like Juarez, Mexico. And it's something that both the U.S. and Mexico are having to deal with more and more, Gotti.
NBC's Gabe Gutierrez, thank you.